Good afternoon, everybody. I'm Martha McCallum, and this is the story. No comment from President Biden as he spoke moments ago around his son Hunter's guilty verdict, which is still obviously very fresh news for the father, President Biden, and the rest of his family to absorb. They are in the middle of two very large legal cases that face Hunter right now. So President Biden was scheduled to head back to the White House, but instead he is going straight to Wilmington, where the family will gather and talk to Hunter, have dinner together, we assume. They just, some of them just had lunch. They said that Hunter was smiling and seemed happy at lunch today. But in a statement earlier, President Biden said he will continue to respect the judicial process as Hunter considers an appeal. Now, remember, as I mentioned, Hunter is also facing separate federal tax violation charges. And those were the things that those whistleblower IRS agents came before Congress and talked about, said, we believe that there was felonious behavior here, and we got shut down. Now, here's the president on his son's legal issues, all of it, when he was asked about it back in 2020. Watch.
Are you confident that Hunter did nothing wrong?
I'm confident.
Confident that his son was not guilty of any wrongdoing. Let's bring in New York Post columnist Miranda Devine. She has written extensively about the Hunter Biden case, including a book about the infamous laptop, and townhall.com editor Katie Pavlich. Both are Fox News contributors. Great to have both of you with us today. Miranda, we haven't heard from you since this verdict. Obviously, it's something that you have been deeply dug into over the last couple of years. What was your reaction to this very quick verdict? Just about 3 hours they deliberated.
Look, I think that we would never have seen this if it hadn't been for the IRS whistleblowers Gary Shapley and Joe Ziegler. So you see that the right thing was done when the right people do the right thing, and it was great cost to them. Of course, this is just the tip of the iceberg of what they were investigating. We'll see some of those other charges in the tax fraud trial in California in September. If that goes to trial, I wouldn't be surprised if Hunter Biden takes a plea on that. But really, it's the first time that Hunter Biden has been held accountable. He's always counted on his father's power to protect him from having to admit any wrongdoing. He could have, none of this need have happened if he'd just admitted just to a bare minimum. Even that plea deal last year that ended up collapsing only happened because of those IRS whistleblowers. He could have nipped it all in the bud by just, pleading guilty to a couple of misdemeanors maybe and accepting some responsibility. But he didn't do that. He just allowed his lawyers to go and bully David Weiss and the DOJ and the prosecutors, threaten them with career suicide. The obstruction and slow walking of that case owes the wrongdoing in that case to the fact that Joe Biden was quite happy to sit back and allow his DOJ to be bullied by his son's lawyers.
Let's take a look at this. This is a June 6th ABC interview that President Biden gave to David Muir. Watch.
As we sit here in Normandy, your son Hunter is on trial, and I know that you cannot speak about an ongoing federal prosecution. But let me ask you, will you accept the jury's outcome, their verdict, no matter what it is?
Yes.
And have you ruled out a pardon for your son?
Yes.
Katie.
Well, I think it all depends on how the appeal and the sentencing goes, whether President Joe Biden will be able to uphold that end of the deal for his son, given his statement he released today saying he's the president of the United States, but he's also a father. So we'll just have to see if that happens. There's also commutation, which is available, but you have to start serving some kind of sentence before that becomes eligible. But when I think about what happened today, I can't help but go back to the 2020 election, which, Martha, we obviously covered very closely. And David Weiss had this laptop in 2018, and we are at a crisis in this country when it comes to believing in institutions, believing the justice system is not one-sided, and yet you still had this laptop denied as Russian intelligence, and it was introduced in this court case as very real, and not just real, but containing evidence of a number of crimes, specifically the gun case here, but it also has a lot of other information, other crimes, including the statute of limitations run on these charges for FARA violations, which connect directly to Joe Biden. There's a reason Miranda named her book The Laptop from Hell. And the idea that an entire election hinged on this October surprise of this laptop on a lie that was buried by the government really is concerning in terms of the intelligence community, the Justice Department, and that really, I think, is the bigger issue here. And the fact that they brought this gun case as a misdemeanor plea that failed because of a judge, then it got upgraded to what it should be, which is felonies, and now they're saying that this is done and over with, and it's not going to touch Joe Biden. Now, the tax case might. But you go back to the 2020 election and what was said about the evidence here, and you just can't downplay how much impact that had on the country.
Yeah, it was all blown off at the debate and elsewhere as, probably Russian disinformation and 50-plus intelligence officials saying, yeah, it kind of looks like that might be what this is. Well, that just, is laughable at this point. It was obviously the backbone of this entire case, Miranda. I want to go back to what you said earlier, because no doubt the Biden family will discuss tonight these tax charges that he faces as well, which, as you both pointed out, link more closely to the potential. Certainly, James Biden was aware of these business dealings and whether or not the president, Joe Biden, had any connection to them either.
Yeah, look, I think there is a danger there. And of course, that's happening 6 weeks or so before the election. And it should be a long trial if it goes ahead. I'm told, over a month, it'll go well into the end of October. And so it is also, as you said, a threat to Joe Biden himself, because although David Weiss, who was then the US attorney in Delaware, allowed the statute of limitations to run out on the most serious charges, those in 2014 and 2015, they're still in the indictment those years. And that brings into evidence the time that Hunter Biden was earning $1 million a year from that corrupt energy company in Ukraine, Burisma. And it also brings in then Vice President Joe Biden's causing to be fired the honest prosecutor there in Ukraine, Viktor Shokin, who was investigating Burisma. Now, that is very uncomfortable for the president right on the eve of the election. That's why I would be really surprised if there wasn't some sort of plea deal going into there. Yeah. And I also have no doubt that Joe Biden will be pardoning his son in the lame duck period after the election. He's told many lies before, and he, I'm sure, is lying now. There's no way he won't pardon Hunter if Hunter is, has to go into the election with those convictions.
Well, there's been a lot of reporting around how heavily this has weighed on President Biden, that he gets very testy if people bring up anything around it. He doesn't want to talk about it. It's been obviously on his mind a lot. And we'll see. Hunter Biden, he took one plea deal that fell apart. This time he could have. He decided not to. So, he may be convinced that he is not guilty on these other charges either, and determined to see them out in court, because that's what he did here, and it didn't really go his way. So we'll see what he decides. Miranda Devine, thank you very much. Katie Pavlich, great to have both of you with us today.
Thank you.
We'll see you soon.
Thanks, Margaret.
Hey, Sean Hannity here. Hey, click here to subscribe to Fox News YouTube page and catch our hottest interviews and most compelling analysis. You will not get it anywhere else.